Before we begin, an announcement for this episode. You'll want to look for the extended version, which has more stories, more chit chat, on March 11th on Spotify and or other audio podcast platforms. It will not be distributed on YouTube. So if you want, you go and find IHP on Spotify, Spotify for Creators, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, whatever podcast platform you use. There's about 11 or 12 of them, so it might not, if I don't know what you use, but if you do use Spotify, you find us there. And on March 11th, though, Spotify will have maintenance, something going on, so you'll want to keep an eye out for it. Okay, and now that I've done that part, polyamory to polyfidelity relationships. Time isn't money, it's life. Spend it with people who love. And welcome to you all who are curiously stopping by. 5D Mystic, mentor, content creator, podcast host. I'm in the Enlightenment Soul age group. I'm a securely attached, non-traumatized person because I can be mindfully aware of Maria through the thoughts and the emotions that come up. So sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts are definitely something that I can use mindset skills to sift through, and my mindfulness practices to allow you to know why the inner growth mindset and being able to be yourself is easy for a whole 3-year-old heart. And so fidelity means faithfulness, which doesn't come if you don't have the capacity to keep the vows that you speak from your own very mouth, which is why it's not the institution and it's not monoamory or monogamy or the vows based on ancient biblical textbooks or anything. So society and overall those who choose to basically judge the polyamory community with a charge, it's okay, we get it, because that's the part. I can understand monoamory monogamy. I was myself in the monoamory group before I got to Twin Flame 2 and then Twin Flame 3 and then more than just basically when you have special bonds, and so you move into loving more than just a friend. Okay, so authenticity and transparency. Everybody is in polyamory for different reasons. To me, it's about love. And love means that you mean something more to me. And again, the capacity to know what that bond represents, and so that it can be platonic, that it can be physical. This is where it all depends on the dynamics. Everybody is different. So polyfidelity is an actual vessel that I learned about that contains those of us who choose to close our polyamory relationships to one that doesn't allow new people to come in. And here's why I expressed time isn't money, it's life, and that you spend it with people who love. You spend it with the consistent, contingent communicator, and that's a safe haven, secure base partner and or partners, again, depending on the dynamic. So when I meet polyamory individuals who are just fucking around, so to speak, that's their choice. What I can tell you is that they're just allowed to use a word, but they don't know what love is. And I'll explain why. Because you're not poly enough means you don't know how to be a functional adult. You just did what is a childish thing, because the only time is when peer pressure was a thing as an adolescent, and as a grown-up, what I know that behavior is, it's unbridled self-expression. It's a control, right, wrong thing with an adaptive child part person who has their self in protective mode. So they have an unsafe and more their faith in humanity and relationships, romantic type, has been broken and or whatever, or they're on a trending topic wheel. So when I meet those who are polyamory, not because of love, but because they're in the trend group, I don't find it appealing. So the polyfidelity is what I learned about in Polywise. It's great to consider for any of you who are curious about polyamory in the way of love. Then I'm going to say you know how to love yourself first, which is why you know what vows, commitment, and integrity involve. And again, it's not about the ones who do say that God or source or spirit or society is to be built upon the traditional yesterday. Don't actually explore that people are of two types. They are securely attached and non-traumatized functional adults, or we got the adaptive child who are instead needing to be reparented with Patrick Tan or Terry Real, and they won't necessarily. So there's our 3D40 collective who will bring forth that to them vows and commitment and integrity are only upheld by those who are monogamous, monoamorous, and do the ancient scarlet letter times. And so for them it will be, they betrayed and I forgave. And you'll find the coaches and more that are helping those people. So that, there they go. Vows to me is something called that I will, till death do part, sickness and in health, right? What is it? Let me see if I can find it. For better or for worse, I will be there for you. I don't have it here, but the point is that love is freedom and joy, while attachment is bondage and misery. Thank you, Sadhguru. And then for most people, love means you must do what I want, and he says no, love means they can do what they want, and we still love them. Now, they can't do everything that they want, but what he means is that we have the capacity to accept each other for the way we are, which is true, because take me as I am, God. I am flawed, and I am a sinner just like anybody else, and I don't play God, right? Okay, so we take each other as we are, with our faults, which means which our flaws, with our imperfections. But authenticity and transparency in those vows, that integrity, that commitment, that faithfulness comes because we can be honest and open and have compersion, whether you're a monoamory, monogamous, man, woman, or they, or polyamory. Not all of us are polygamous. And expressing that which is from within us, right? So summon out what I shall be. You can only bring forth and set your seal upon my heart who you are when you are a whole self. This is why functional adults. And so what I have noticed is that there are a lot of people that are yet to overflow with humanity, which is why divinity has not descended upon them. And what that means is they're not pure consciousness in the sense of an integrated brain who can have the sense of self. And so those 9 domains of integration, when you are flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable, thank you, Dr. Dan Siegel, your left and right mode, they work together, and that's why my default mode network is downregulated and has consistently been, as a person who has been mindfully aware since I can remember. So I have interoception, I can perceive shit that's going on in here. I can always have an inner growth mindset going on with my thoughts and my feelings, because my sensations and images and anything that comes up affects is not overwhelming, even when I was going through panic attacks. Okay, so you will know if you are a securely attached, non-traumatized person, because you can metabolize sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts by focusing that attention, and then in awareness, maximum certainty, you focus with the kind intention. I have self-compassion for Maria, and I accept that I am flawed, and that I will respond to God, not to a human being in flesh. Doesn't matter what cloak they're wearing, especially when they hurt children, and then they allow men and women to hurt each other. And that's physically, emotionally, and more. So thank goodness we have laws, and we continue to have good therapists who are looking forward to supporting those who want to become functional adults. I, in the meantime, support self-help, personal development, because you're already here as a functional child adult for mindfulness practices, mindset, and mindset skills, and for spiritual growth. You're not going to access the soul or the spirit of you, unconditional love, if you have not the capacity to work with the charges that come up with the left and right with your prefrontal cortex. Okay, so take me as I am. Again, that's what we express to each other, and with flaws. So our vows are the words that we speak. Our commitment is what we have to share with each other. And also, because you only have 24 hours, you will not be able to build what is an in-depth bond with someone if you're doing what then becomes polysaturated, by the way. So people who are trying to be part of a trending bandwagon, I don't know. See, here's what I do know how to tell you. Maladaptive patterns of behavior. Dr. Daniel Fox will have talked about him. Also a good workshop that I did with a lovely lady who has a 12-step program for people who want to get out of that. Dr. Daniel Siegel, but he doesn't use those words, but maladaptive patterns of behavior, and I said child because there's also the adaptive child, because it's definitely a left brain without the usage of the right. So the right only comes up when past. That's why it's a structural dissociated moment. So the unfinished business that Terry Real will tell you, or Patrick Tiahan will tell you, people continue to live. Okay, so unhealthy self-worth is what I'm about to get into. The only reason polysaturated even exists is because you have people who are saying I'm polyamory, but they don't know love. because they don't have self-acceptance. With the functional adult, that Terrio will tell you is what you need so that you can have any type of romantic relationship, be with a real man and a real woman, meaning a person who can stand 2 hands, 2 feet and say, here's my thoughts, here's my feelings, here's what I assumed without being aggressive, and here's what I would like us to negotiate on because this is where I'm at. And now that you have a functional adult and a functional adult with an inner child, we're open-hearted and spontaneous. So we're not the hypervigilant inner child with trauma where the faith towards my romantic partner is consistently broken with me feeling unsafe, insecure because of me not having the child-centric environment. Okay, so when faith has been broken, it's because people need Patrick Tian. When they're ready to be in a loving relationship, then they're ready for whether it's monoamory, polyamory, and those vows. And that's in a functional inner child adult way. Okay, so it's really amazing. The empowered relationships is what I call them. These are our empowered counterparts. And it's people who love because they love themselves first, so they know how to love. They also will know if they don't love themselves first that they're growing the capacity to feel unconditionally loved, and however long it takes them to get to the heart of that, which is defectiveness that comes from, again, not having had a safe haven, secure base, securely attached figure within their household, within their lifetime, to learn how to anchor in their own ventral energy. And so that is also why, let me read to you some of these beautiful quotes that we have already read, but in case you're new, you haven't heard them. Pat Ogden, PhD, there's that fine line between couples nourishing each other and being able to take care of themselves to a degree so that they can be in contact. So you get in contact with depths of you and the depths of another. And we also have this other beautiful one, but wait a minute, maybe it's, nope, here. Couples can do remarkable things to heal each other as best friends, confidants, better than any therapist, because they are romantically engaged. And it's not the romantic part alone, it's that we are safe haven, secure base. So your nervous system and my nervous system get into their ventral vagal state because we are safe to be our goofy, flawed self. Then we're also secure base, so it means we share talking about the day-to-day interests. And so that is a consistent mental, emotional, and physical intrigue and joy. And you continue to do that. And so there's no false self-identity. There's no fear of bringing forth a conversation. There's no triggers that actually are presented in a way of taking away a person's humanity, which instead, as Patrick Tian has pointed out, when a person who doesn't take ownership of their own inner childhood trauma, they will have not only, again, to reclaim the faith that they lost and that was broken in people, but also to move into noticing when the triggers come up, which with romantic partners is very much going to be the case because, again, the unsafety to be yourself comes because that's how you were in home. And so I'm going to be an automatic opportunity for growth. That's as a person who's talking to you all from, again, functional or child adults, mindfully living, loving people who are aware, accountable, and regulating. So polyamory doesn't do that for you if you're not already able to love. And your nervous system doesn't need to be put under pressure for you to become securely attached. Which is why I will say when I've met people who are just doing the trending topic thing, they might as well allow themselves to understand why polysaturated stuff exists and people think of us as masochists. Because, of course, if you got Diego's family, low self-esteem and direct communicators, passive-aggressive, they're all doing their unfinished business and they're all living from visceral, which means they're all insecure. They all are from Mean Girls and they're all basically drama queens and kings who think love is all about the rush and this and that and people being envious and jealous. Reminds me of my teenage girlfriends who, in fact, had stories for me, one of which was, I didn't tell you about him cheating on you because I know what it is like to actually have a relationship be ruined because all the girls were jealous of me and my boyfriend, and they went around spreading a rumor that I had fucked every boy in town and he broke up with me. And so I thought that you would think that I was jealous of your relationship with him and that I was lying. And I was like, so you took him back after he believed in everybody else? Well, yeah, because see, the girls, they were jealous. That's why. In fact, the only reason you know about him cheating on you is because the boy who told you likes you. That's the only reason he told you. He was hoping you'd break up. I said, no, he's my friend. He told me because that's what friends do. And I understand you have a reason for why you didn't. I actually said, so you took him back after he believed in others and didn't even come bother talking to you before breaking up. And again, she repeated. So this is what happens when you have insecure people. They actually think about, well, they're so spiteful. They want what I have. Wow. So I'm okay. That's again. Anytime I think of adoptive child parts, they're teenagers because that's the fight response, and that's what reminded me to remind you all. Polyamory to me and monoamory are when you know how to love, and vows are not about the poly or mono. It's you know how to have integrity with your mouth, and then you also know how to talk to me. Versus so when you get triggered, what happens when people lose sight of humanity in the other? And that's because they have the unsafe stuff from their own. They will basically, for no other reason except for, again, they're triggered in the mind of the person. You have become just so thoughtless and oblivious. What the fuck's wrong with you? Or maybe they won't curse, but it doesn't matter. The tone is going to give it away. You're manipulative. I bet you're doing it on purpose. No, I'm not, but okay. I've had that with people in general. And that's why, again, any person who doesn't have secure attachment and is non-traumatized, which means they can metabolize through their own thoughts, feelings, mind, sensations, images, everything with awareness, focus, attention. Here we go. Okay, kind intention. Let me self-regulate. Let me have a chit-chat, inner growth mindset, and then I will allow myself to come in and talk to you. So nobody says you become manipulative. They become loose cannons. Okay, so this is where the cannon's terrifying. They become cowardly. They can call you a coward, and then being afraid that you're going to cut them off or leave them. And so the ones who are actually being the real aggressor, as Patrick Tahan points out, is the one who is triggered without the awareness. But again, that's a side note to our conversation, and a reminder to those of you who tune in regularly is that when people are aware of themselves and their triggers, they don't bring it into the room as an inner child with their amygdala. They bring it into the room with a, okay, let me go, I'm gonna come back later, something like that. So they're aware. And when you have people who are serious about relationship, you will know that because, again, time is of the essence for them. And that's because life is just as important for them as it is for us. So polyamory, people who do have the embodiment of this type of relationship dynamic, for me it began with solo poly, and then again it moved to polyfidelity. And closing it up is not something anomalous, abnormal, or like it feels restrictive, because the reality is you have 24 hours in a day. You're going to be living life with the one or the ones who commit to actually being a part of it, not just showing up whenever randomly you decide to. Coming in and out of my life doesn't mean that you are committed. No, it means you have a comfort in knowing that I am consistently going to welcome you with open arms, but that's because that's what a bond is in general. Like when my facade friend, I knew who was in trouble, and I hadn't been speaking to him for 5 years, but with Claire's and with my promise to God and with me knowing what the right thing is to do, humanly speaking, I said yes to him writing me. I sat him down, talked to him, and everything I said didn't matter because he's still the same person who has the adaptive child part. So the only ones who know what true love is and what vows mean and what integrity and commitment means is a person who has self-awareness, accountability, regulation, whether they're polyamory, monoamory. Fidelity comes because you're faithful. And the people who have compersion for each other have love for each other, because it's I want you to be happy every day of your life. We can work things out. There's no stigma or taboo, and that's for the open-minded individuals. We will be back with some more episodes because we have some lovely themes today. So if you do have any kinds of curiosity questions, if you're a polyamory or you're curious, just let me know. I'm happy to chit-chat about it. And like I said, it was actually not a struggle to talk about it. The most quote-unquote challenging part is, am I going to be loved for being Maria? And that's going to be a straightforward answer. It's yes or it's no. And if it's no, that's okay. But I have the capacity to say, do you take me as I am and with respect, accept the quirky flaws and everything else that comes with it, including societal stigma, because that's another aspect you will care. I care consistently about people knowing what I do for a living as a 5D mystic who is in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, but who knows we are not all welcome. And I do love God and Jesus and Holy Spirit, but I know that I am not welcome by all. So can you respect me and know that you're walking, and when you walk with a person, it's by association that people will look at you. So automatically presenting who you are is important if you do care for people. And that's where it's always the number one thing I've done as a person growing up. My girlfriends, they think of me as putting up barriers. As one of my closest girlfriends, the last time she told me this, it was in a situation. I said, I don't put up barriers. I tell people who I am so that I don't have to hear, I thought you would change. I thought you'd be this. I thought these are not barriers for the umpth time. And so, you're running. I'm not running. I don't want to waste time. Let me tell you who I am so you don't have to waste your time. And so looking forward to all of you coming back. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.